Hey beloved, Krista Petterford here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. In today's video, I am sharing 5 signs that will help you know if you are embracing and navigating your new season well. If you're in a new season and you want to ensure that you have clarity about what God is calling you to do and how to make it through this season successfully, or if you're in a long, hard season or in a long, delightful season and you want to know, make sure that you're getting all the benefits and blessings that God has for you, then this video is for you. And if you're new here, I just want you to know that I post videos once a week, and then I do a live Saturday morning prayer on the first Saturday of each month to help equip and encourage you in your faith as you navigate the seasons of life and live out your calling in Christ. If that is you, then I would love to have you join our YouTube family here. It's growing, so please subscribe and let's get into this video. So, 5 signs. Before I get into the video, I have some notes here. I want to tell you that embracing your season does not mean that you're embracing something less than God's best or what He's promised you. Paul said in Philippians 4:11, I have learned to be content in whatever state I'm in our case, in whatever season I'm in. The word content means a state of peaceful happiness or to be satisfied. So in other words, Paul was saying, I've learned to be satisfied in whatever state or season I'm in. He wasn't saying that he was happy being in jail or being persecuted for following Christ. He was saying that whether in a delightful or a difficult season, he would not allow his circumstances to dominate his feelings or dictate how he chose to respond to God in his season. And so this is the first thing, and this is an overall check for you, how you can see, are you choosing to delight in God? Are you letting your feelings dictate how you choose to respond to God in the season that you're in? Are you allowing your circumstances to dominate you and dominate your feelings? So that is something, that's the first check, and that's overall. So everything that I'm going to share, all 5 signs are going to point back to that. Learning to be satisfied, learning to lean in and to rejoice in God and not allow your feelings or your circumstances to control you. And so that is how we navigate a new season. So the way that we navigate a new season is we choose to embrace it with a spirit of contentment, that we're going to be content in God, and we're going to find the beauty, blessings, purpose, and lessons in the season that we are in. We're going to change our perspective. We're not going to look at the things that we don't have, but we're going to look for the blessings. And so these 5 signs are going to come from the book of Ruth, because she is the best example of a woman in the Bible who truly embraced a difficult season that led to a delightful season in which God restored and her legacy, and she reached her destiny. So let's get into it. Number 1, your focus has changed. When you are navigating a new season and you are embracing your season well, you are not looking backward, but you're looking forward to your future, and you are fully present in your current season. And so Ruth said in chapter 1, when Naomi offered her the opportunity to go back to her homeland and her family, her gods, and her people, where she could find rest in the house of a husband, she said, no, I was married to your son. I am with you. Do not urge me from following you or try and talk me into returning back to my land. Where you go, I will go. And so Ruth declared, she was determined, and she declared with her mouth that she was willing and ready to take on her current season, come what may. She didn't have any details about the future. There were a lot of unknowns and uncertainties, but she fully embraced it, not looking back, but looking forward to her future. And so that is the first sign that you're not looking and thinking of ways to go back. You're not looking for somebody to give you a way out, but or to turn back, but you're totally focused on, this is where I'm at. This is my present season. I'm navigating it. I'm going to do what happened, do what it takes, come what may in this season to press on forward to my future. Number 2, your perspective and your words change from faith to fear. Oftentimes when we are navigating a new season, instead of embracing that season, we are speaking words of fear and doubt and how bad it could be. And that's what Naomi did. But Ruth didn't let those words control her. She didn't let those words dictate to her the fear. She didn't take on that spirit, but she began to speak faith. In Ruth 17, chapter 1, 17 and 18, she began to say, where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do more to me, and also anything, if I let anything but death part me from you. And so, and when the Bible says that, and when Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she stopped trying to talk her out of it. And so Ruth, everything that Naomi spoke that was fear-based about the future, about a grim future, about I don't know what I'm returning home to, I can't have any son or get married. The possibilities are pretty slim to none for me to have another son that you might marry, and you could go back home right now and find a husband and have rest and peace and security in the house of your husband and your parents. Everything that she said and every tempting offer to turn back, Ruth answered it with faith. And so you need to answer your circumstances with faith and start speaking faith over fear. And I know that took me some time to get to. I was more focused. My perspective was on the what ifs instead of what about God. And so we have to get there. And that's when you're really embracing your season. And then number 3, your worries change from an attitude. Your worries change to an attitude of gratitude and willingness. And so Ruth, as she was moving forward in her season, and even Naomi, she went to a field where she could find favor, and she was willing to do the work. And she had gratitude when Boaz noticed her, and he blessed her, and he spoke protection over her, and told his men not to harm her and to let her eat and drink. She fell at his feet and she worshiped him, and she said, you have treated me as good as one of your servants, and yet I am not your servants. When he honored her and said, I know what it has been told to me, what you have done for your mother-in-law, and how you left your country and your people and your family and came here to be with your mother-in-law in this hard season, and you didn't have to. And so the Lord is going to bless you and cover you. She didn't say, yeah, I know. She didn't get high-minded, but she had an attitude of gratitude. She was thankful. She wasn't looking at all the sacrifice that she had done, but she was looking at what he had done for her. She was looking at the blessings, and she was so grateful for what he had done. And what he saw in her was someone who was deserving, and yet she was just grateful. And not only that, but she was willing to do the hard work. When Boaz's men told him who she was, when he pointed her out and said, who is this? And they said, oh, it's Ruth. And that's how he found out about her story. They said she had been working from sun up, and she had not stopped, and she was going behind the reapers. So she hadn't yet been approved of Boaz to even do the harvesting with the real grain. She had to pick up what was left, and she had been doing that for her mother-in-law. And so that's a willingness That's a willingness to do the hard and the humble things in a difficult season, and even in delightful seasons, even when we don't want to do something, when God is blessing us, when we are willing to do what it takes in a season and not look back and complain. That means, listen, I am embracing this season. I'm not making excuses. I'm not going to not do the work. I'm not going to say, well, it was this way in the last season, but I'm going to embrace this season. I'm going to navigate this new season. I'm going to be open. Willingness is also a word for open. I'm going to be open. I'm going to have open hands. I'm going to have an open heart, and I'm going to have an open mind. I'm not going to be so tied down to the way I used to do things, or my mindsets, or what used to work, that I don't take advantage and take the opportunities that God puts before me. Sometimes we let opportunities go by because it's not what we thought and it looks too hard. But Ruth didn't do that. And so when you're embracing and navigating a new season, those are things that you need to do. And that is a sign. And so where are you? Are you embracing the things that God puts before you, or are you making excuses for not doing the hard and sometimes even the humbling things? And number 4, you go from unrest to resting in God's faithfulness and waiting for him to fulfill his promises. And so in Ruth 3, I won't read the whole chapter, but in Ruth 3, when Naomi found out that Ruth had favor, and that she had favor with Boaz, who was a kinsman, she told Ruth to go lay at his feet at night after the barley season was over and they were having a celebration, and to ask him to redeem her, and buy back the land and basically marry her. And Ruth was not only willing to do that, she could have said no, but she said yes. She went with what Naomi said, but then she had to wait and see how the matter was going to turn out after Ruth got back from asking Boaz and to cover her, to be her covering, to take her and Naomi in. And he said he would, but there was another kinsman who was closer that he had to go to and see if he would buy them back, or he would redeem the land and take on Naomi and Ruth with the land of her deceased husband. And they had to wait and see how it was going to turn out. And so she waited restfully. And maybe it's not an overnight, a few days that you have to wait. Maybe it's been some years. Maybe it's been maybe it's a new season and you don't know how things are going to turn out. But if you can go from unrest and a spirit of worry, and you can rest in God's faithfulness, that he will make everything that you're going through work together for your good, that he will open new doors for you, that you, if you are willing to wait for him to fulfill his promises and to show you the beauty, the blessings, the purpose, and the lessons in this season, if you're willing for him to if you're willing to wait for him to show you your next step, then that is a sign that you are embracing and navigating your new season well. You're not trying to figure it out on your own. You're not anxious, but you are in everything by prayer and supplication, making your request known unto God, and allowing his peace that surpasses all understanding to guard your heart and mind, so that you can rest and wait on him to show you what's next. And number 5, you go from complaining and from to a spirit of rejoicing in God's blessings, of restoration and things to come in this present season and in the season to come. And so Naomi and Ruth, Naomi had been a complainer, and she wasn't trying to be. Life had dealt with her bitterly, and sometimes we begin to speak about that, and we begin to allow what we've gone through to shape our identity and to become bigger than God's promises in our life. And so when she started this journey, and when she went and when she made it back to Bethlehem, her name, which means pleasant and beautiful, she told the women in her hometown, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, because the Lord has dealt bitterly with me. And so she had this thing where she was feeling like the Lord had dealt harshly with her. But Ruth stuck close to her. Ruth, whose name means friend, stuck closely to her. And as God began to work out things for them, Naomi went from a spirit of complaining and a spirit of talking about the bitterness and the things that had happened to her to a spirit of rejoicing. And in fact, that's how she started seeing things differently. And she said, wait a minute, let me find rest for you. Ruth, who gave up rest in a season when she could have gone back. Naomi, when she began to become herself again, through things working out well for them because she chose to embrace the season that she was in and make the best of it, said, wait a minute, here's a plan for us to move forward with God. Go to Boaz. And then that brought even more blessings, because then when Ruth and Boaz married and Obed came forth, the Bible says that the women who had greeted her at the gate said, your daughter-in-law has been better to you than 7 sons, because she has given you this child who is going to Obed, who is going to be a restorer of life to you and a nourisher in your old age. And so she learned to rejoice, and that brought the blessings. She learned to make the best of it. And so that is another way that you're making the best of it. Again, those are the opportunities that she took, and it wouldn't have happened without Ruth stepping out on faith and saying, okay, I'm going to do what you said do. I'm going to believe and trust God. And so, though, again, that is being satisfied. That is embracing your season. That is not saying this is wonderful. Just like Ruth and Naomi, they weren't embracing the fact that they had to, the things that had happened to them. They were accepting them, and they weren't loving that. They knew that God had more for them, but they were embracing that season. Like, this is it. This is where we're at. This is what has happened, and we're going to move forward and make the best of it. And so that's how we really embrace the season that we are in. And those are 5 signs that can help you. And those are actually, if they're not signs, if you're saying, well, I'm not doing that right now, they're things that you can implement little by little, one at a time. It doesn't have to be all at once. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like for you to share with me in the comments, which one are you currently implementing, and which one is it that you need to work on, or which ones? I know for me, it was speaking, the way I speak. Sometimes in the past, my words were more filled with worry and fear and all the what ifs instead of what God has said, and making my declarations align with the promises of God. Because the thing is, when we go through difficult seasons, when we begin new seasons, we can embrace them with confidence that God is going to do what he said he's going to do, because our new seasons or difficult seasons do not negate the promises and plans and purposes of God, but how we walk through them, whether if we choose to embrace them, how we deal with them determines our next season. So you can delay God's blessings, you can negate them by your choices, but that doesn't negate God's promises and his plans for you. See, Orpah turned back, and she never got to see what God would have done for her. Maybe he had a Boaz for her too, but Ruth moved forward, and because she was willing to embrace a new season with a lot of unknowns, with a lot of uncertainties, she got to see the fullness of what God had for her. Those promises were there for Orpah too. Those promises were there for Naomi, who thought her future was grave, but because she chose to embrace it, even in that season of feeling like a Mara, like life had emptied her out and she had nothing to look forward to. She was just going to go home and make it. God used that. He used her forward moving faith, her willingness to embrace it, not to stay in Moab. She could have died in Moab. She really didn't have a lot to go back to in in Bethlehem, but because she chose to get up and move forward, then God surprised her through her daughter-in-law Ruth. And so I hope that this blesses you. Let me know in the comment what parts blessed you and which of the 5 signs most spoke to you, and also let me know why, how they spoke to you. I'd love to hear from you. God bless you. Until next time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.